the Idries Shah Foundation podcast. Practical Psychology for Today. Featuring the works of Idries Shah, voiced by David Ault. Welcome to the Idries Shah Foundation podcast. In this edition of the podcast, we will hear selections from Reflections by Idries Shah. This audio has been made available by the Idries Shah Foundation.
Belief. If you believe everything, you are not a believer in anything at all. The wise and the foolish. Fools expect themselves to be honoured by the wise. But if the wise do honour fools, it is for reasons unsuspected by the fools themselves. A frequent and diverting sight is that of some fools seeking honour from other fools. It becomes even more amusing when they are denied it. Words and thought. Words are an aspect of the attempted communication of thought. They are not thought. When we see words described as thoughts, we should make sure that we know this distinction. Talk. You know him not at all, so you can talk against him. You know him slightly, and you can boast about it. You know him well. Now you can talk against him again. Higher experience. People who have been profoundly affected by having had a higher inner experience should ponder the statement, "When God wants to destroy an ant, he gives it wings." 3 kinds of literature. Note these 3 kinds of literature. The first is factual literature, whose intention is to provide information. The second is ephemeral literature, whose main function is to entertain. The third is specific literature, designed to help develop capacities in a certain readership. Literature which entertains may contain teaching materials as well. Truth. A thing, an idea, a statement is true only when and where it holds true. Something is true in accordance with its context. No context means no truth in the sense in which human thought understands it.
Study and method. Study is a matter of having information and knowledge of how to study, what to study at any given time, and what not to study. It is also essential for any advance beyond ordinary educational levels to be effective, for one to know, or to be able to apply under guidance, the matter of with whom to study. Random study is no study. Studying things because they seem to be in one's field, or because they just attract one, is not real study. Good discipline is a part of study, and exists for carrying out study, because it is the undisciplined, not the disciplined, who overstudies, and who amasses information which he cannot really digest in all its levels. Discipline also enables a person to focus on and off study, and to refrain from it when it is not indicated for the improvement of his higher states. Although we must not shrink from the overt meaning of materials studied on the factual plane, we have to realize that there are qualitative dimensions in study whose operating depend on a knowledge of them. Those who do not know this have to learn it. Next, they have to find someone or some institution which knows how to do it, and is willing and able to communicate it in a practical form. Stimuli. When a person has a jaded palate, as we all know, he needs more and more piquant and probably more varied taste stimuli to activate it. In current cultures, the result of overstimulation of the mental palate is today obvious. The analogy of the palate, however, is not completely exact, because the human mind has capacities of taste which in contemporary societies are not satisfied at all, The lack of this stimulus is because it is not realized that, in this area, a stimulus need not be intense in order to operate. The result of this ignorance is that people will not give a gentle stimulus a chance to operate, and reach forward to whatever seems most likely to afford them instant or deep stimuli. Such people have almost completely put themselves outside the range of the less crude stimulus. It is only when they are prepared to entertain the possibility of its existence, and prepared too to test its working, that they can be communicated with. We can make no progress with a demand like this. Give me chili powder, but let it taste like rose water. Tasting. He who tastes knows, but he who only thinks he tastes will not leave anyone alone. Meditation. Meditation without concentration and contemplation is not very different from water without wetness and coldness. Knowledge and power. Knowledge is power, they say. But if only power were knowledge, that would be something worth thinking about. Too late to learn? If proverbs had been kept in proper repair, it would have been registered that it is never too late to learn some things. It is always too late to learn other things. Difficulties in teaching. There have been communities and dedicated groups who have been given materials equivalent to 1,000 years of teaching and have hardly noticed it. This happens for the same reason that people who are frenziedly greedy may not even remember what they have eaten, or whether they have eaten. Born yesterday. Have you noticed how many people say, "I wasn't born yesterday," and act as if they were only born today? Change everything. If it were possible to do without food, there would be people who would urge its abolition. If one could live without eyes with any degree of comfort, there would be people to claim that they were the root of all evil. If time could be abolished, there would be people trying to get it done, on the grounds that we must have change, and not stick to old-fashioned errors. Seeking. You say that you have come to seek. I have nothing to give you except the way to understand how to seek, but you think that you can already do that. Preparation. In order to digest food, a man needs a stomach. Who troubles himself to inquire, however, whether a would-be wise man is correspondingly well prepared? Smoke and fire. The man who first said, "There is no smoke without fire," may have been describing the state of his contemporary technology, not enunciating a truth. Sheepskin. When you visit a sheep, do not wear a lambskin cap and claim to be a friend. Metaphysics. I don't know how it is with other subjects, but I do know that many people who imagine that they can talk and think about metaphysics wouldn't know it if they found it in their soup. Questions and answers. One of the big differences between questions and answers is that a question may be asked at almost any time and place, but its answer may come at a special time and place. Out of the trees. People say, "Only yesterday, so to speak, man came down from the trees. How, therefore, can he be anything of special consequence?" And yet they seldom say, "Look at that man over there. Only an hour ago, as it were, he was lying for 8 hours inert in bed. How, therefore, can he be anything of special consequence?" Desire. Desire, without orientation, is a game. What a pity that people should turn it into hypocrisy by pretending that it is something higher. When a game is being played, there is nothing higher possible to the players at that time. The door shuts. When a door bangs, people look at it, attracted by the noise. How few realize that it is at that time that they might instead be looking at another door opening or preparing to open one. Miracles. What are called miracles, which people either believe in or do not, have quite a different function from what emotionalists imagine. They are useless if they only impress emotionally. They are, in reality, either byproducts and indications of some extra attainment, or exist to be recorded inwardly by a special organ of recognition. Doing. See clearly how a man is doing a thing. You will then be in a position to see what he is really trying to do. If you merely ask him, or inquire of a committed expert, you deserve all you get. Man. There is no inconsequential man, but what he has done to himself, or what has been done to him, that can make him inconsequential. Deafness. I have discovered a marvelous remedy for many forms of deafness. It is called praise. The stag. When the lion had eaten its fill, and the jackals had taken their share, the ants came along and finished up the meat from the bones of the haughty stag. I and me. Many people try to avoid using the word I to show or practice humility. The consequence of this is to fixate them upon the concept of I. They get the reverse of the effect originally intended. What is important is to know which I is involved in any act or statement. This comes only through the experience of the various I's in a person. Him who waits. They say, as you know, that all things come to him who waits. We are not told, of course, what eventually happens to this well-endowed individual. But what a prospect! Not what he wants comes to him who waits, not what he needs, but all things. Raw material. Listen to man. He thinks that he prizes himself above everything else, and yet he treats himself and his fellows as the cheapest raw material in the world. Sore eyes. A sight for sore eyes is an interesting phrase. Since no actual sight has ever benefited a sore eye, I suppose we could take it to mean that the incident is void of usefulness. Hard and easy work. Prescribing hard work for the soft, or easy work for the hardy, is generally nonsense. What is always needed in any aim is right effort, right time, right people, right materials. Contradictions. Remember that things which appear to you to be mutually contradictory are, in real philosophy, only such because of the viewpoint of the time of looking at them. Just as a child or an idiot cannot see how you can blow hot and cold, hot to warm your hands and cold to cool your soup, so can the underdeveloped human brain only think incomparably primitive patterns. Evolution. A man is deficient in understanding until he perceives that there is a whole cycle of evolution possible within himself, repeating endlessly, offering opportunities for personal development. Chalk and cheese. Chalk and cheese have far more characteristics in common than we would be led to believe by whoever framed the phrase purporting to illustrate differences by means of these two substances. Comprehensive materials. If you are given something to study, regard well the conditions which attach to the study. That is to say, study it when and where prescribed. The materials and manner of study may well violate the habits of study which you have formed in the past. If you propose to study something comprehensive in an ignorantly selective manner, you might as well not start at all. Attraction. We all know people who are attracted to individuals and ideas, either because these resemble themselves, or because they are in some ways their opposites. The reason for the original attraction very easily becomes a barrier. There may be something in the person or the idea which can benefit the attracted, but this factor cannot beneficially affect the attracted person when he is still deriving satisfactions from the minor pleasure of being or thinking like or unlike someone else. You may eat a cherry because you like its flavor. It will never, however, be of nutritional value if you keep it in your mouth all the time. Proper study of this contention is exceedingly important. Both ends. We are adjured not to burn the candle at both ends. But how many people have verified that this is physically possible? Fools. They say there is no fool like an old fool. I have, however, observed several. They were, as it happens, young fools.
This podcast is copyright 2016, the Idries Shah Foundation.